So I'm going to go through the SuperHalf series today and rank them quite brutally, A to F, with S, little extra one, being the superest, the superior SuperHalf, or just my favourite really, because let's be honest, it's all subjective, isn't it? It's whether I had a good race day, the weather plays a factor, my race time plays a factor, how tired I was, that all comes into it. I weed in a bush at the start line. We went into actually quite nice portaloos and visited quite a few portaloos along the way. I even went twice before the race. We just need more portaloos. So I started the series in Berlin in March last year, and I completed it in Prague in March this year. Let's get on with it. So let's start with Berlin. This was my first SuperHalf. I didn't really know what to expect. I have run the Berlin Marathon before, but I was really excited to be back on the kind of roughly the same course, finishing at the Brandenburg Gate without having to run 26.2 miles. Now, I wasn't in the best shape, so I walked this one, and I walked it with my friend Kirsty, had a really fun time, ran a little bit faster than I was expecting, finished just under 2:10. It is losing points for the bathroom situation. I weed in a bush at the start line because the queues for the loos and the lack of portaloos was really frustrating, especially as a female runner. So it's losing marks for that. It gains marks for having an epic finish line finish, the same as the marathon, running through the Brandenburg Gate. So it's got an iconic start and finish line in the Tiergarten. It had great spectators. There were so many crews and run clubs out cheering. I enjoyed it from that aspect. It's also very flat. It's fast. The weather was good. Yeah, overall, I would give this a B+. Can't really remember the medal, kind of forgettable, but it was an easy packet pickup in the morning. I actually had to go and collect it that morning because I only flew in late the night before, and they had a whole group of people who were also doing Prague Half, who had literally done the back-to-back, so they had that availability, which I really appreciated. It was quite an early start to do that and then go back to the hotel, finish getting ready, and then head back. I do remember it being very, very chaotic in doing bag drop in the morning. It was quite difficult to find out where we were supposed to be going, where we were bag dropping, and then it was quite a long walk from entering into the start bit to getting into your start corral. The route is nice. Berlin is quite industrial in terms of its cityscape, and I feel like that's not always the most attractive, but there are definitely some pretty buildings along the way. And yeah, as I say, the crowd support was brilliant. They have Morton on course for that one, so good in terms of nutrition on the race course. There was plenty of water. I would definitely go and do that race again. Next up, Copenhagen. I was so excited to run Copenhagen because it's a city that I've always wanted to visit. So I went a few days early. We went and did some cold hot plunge baths the day before, cycled around the city, just had a really, really nice time, which definitely factors into my, the vibes that I give this race. The weather was terrible. It was soaking from start to finish, which also factors in, but I was really impressed with how many people still turned up to spectate the race, to cheer everybody on. I also accidentally started way too far forward in this race, so I was being overtaken basically from the start because I was running with really fast people, and I was like, I'll just start with you guys, thinking I was kind of their pace. I ran sub 2. I was still the slowest by many, many minutes. It was a couple of weeks after Sydney Marathon, and yeah, I just remember thinking this feels quite hard to be running this sub 2 pace, but enjoyed the on-course support. There was bands playing, and given that the weather was honestly atrocious, I couldn't believe how many people had still turned out and how many of the kind of activation still went ahead. They had good loos. I remember waiting a little bit for a loo, but not too bad. Certainly nothing compared to Berlin. In terms of the course of Copenhagen, it spirals through the city, and again, the weather was bad. I feel like I spent most of the race looking down to make sure I wasn't about to trip over, step in a huge puddle, or just kind of trying to protect myself from the wind and rain. So I didn't see a lot of things, but Copenhagen itself is such a beautiful city that I think they could run literally through the back streets and you'd still have a good time. So I'm going to give this race, this would be S status if it wasn't for the weather. So I think that's a little unfair that I'm taking it away. So I'm going to give it an S if you had better weather. For my race day, we're still giving it an A. I would absolutely run back and do this one again. I also love that you can run with a buggy in this one. So that is my ultimate goal, is to get back to Copenhagen, to run it with a buggy with one of my kids in and enjoy that SuperHalf feeling with the kids. Next up, it was Cardiff Half, which I have a real soft spot for Cardiff. My husband used to live there. I ran it before it became a SuperHalf when it was moved to the March time during COVID. delivered. And I love Cardiff. It's such a special city. It's like the course is beautiful. It goes out along the bay, through past the castle. I think it is a lovely, lovely course. It's really well spectated. It's really well supported, and just Welsh runners are just the best. However, I messed up my race weekend because I had a hen do the day before and I ate completely the wrong food, had some wine to drink, and visited quite a few portaloos along the way during the race course. So that does impact it. So maybe we try and take my experience out of it. So thinking about the things that we want on race day, it was really tricky to get into the start corrals and find bag drop and everything. Our hotel was right on the race course, so I ended up actually going back and using the loos in the hotel and dropping stuff in our hotel room because I just could not get through the crowds. Getting into the corrals was, hard. We ended up climbing over a barrier and starting too far back. So I would say that race logistics, race morning was quite chaotic. It was a really sunny, a little bit windy day, which I think, it was good race conditions. It gets quite windy out on the bay. It was also a little bit hillier than I remember. There is a brutal hill at mile 12. I ran it with one of my friends and I can't remember which way round, but we were basically the same pace, one walking, one running. I also very nearly tripped over enjoying the music at one of the bands on the course. Overall, I would give this race B. It's quite crowded in areas on the course. The start corrals are quite chaotic, but Cardiff really does show up for their runners. The medal is really cute. It is of Cardiff Castle, and I like that the new sponsors, I'm going to butcher the name, Oisho, have really cute kit, and I think it's nice that a typically non-running brand are getting involved with running, so we love to see that. So overall, a B for Cardiff Half Marathon. So I was lucky enough to run the SuperHalf series with Real Buzz. Now that they've become super popular, they don't actually offer the package, but you can sign up for each of the SuperHalfs through Real Buzz, raising money for charity. If you don't want to run it for charity, or you've asked too much of your friends and family recently, then you can enter the ballots. It is a problem with the increased popularity of the SuperHalfs, is that by nature of the fact that they've become more popular, all of these races have now become ballot races, which edges out local runners, which is a problem. There's not a time limit to complete the SuperHalfs, which I do really like. They used to be, and now they've taken that away, which I'm very grateful for. And I just think it's a really fun way of seeing Europe, spending your weekends exploring and running a marathon. That's the main point, is that you're not running a marathon. You're running a half marathon, so it isn't so stressful, doesn't take over the whole weekend. I definitely recommend the SuperHalf series. So next up was Valencia Half Marathon. And I've heard big things about Valencia Marathon, and I was expecting big things from the half marathon. And maybe because of the weather, but there just weren't as many spectators out there as I thought there might be. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, but it was raining, so maybe that's just par for the course. Additionally, I did find it a little bit tricky when they said they would have water and the water stations were advertised, and then it was quite a long time between that, the sign saying water and then the actual water coming. So I would have my gel and then be waiting. But if that's happening, so I did learn my lesson after the first 2 times, I then could prepare for it. So I would wait until I could actually see the water station before taking my gel. So that's maybe just a learning from me and for you if you're going to be running this race, is that when they say there's water coming up, it doesn't mean imminently. It means in 5 to 8 minutes time. The race course itself is very flat and fast, as you'd expect from Valencia. Again, I've never been to Valencia before. This was my first time, so I didn't know what to expect from the race course. You go through some beautiful buildings, but there are some also very quiet, almost like industrial type bits of the city. And again, maybe it's because of the rain, but it was quite quiet out there. There was less entertainment, it felt like, on course than some of the others. So just something to bear in mind if you are someone that draws from the crowds, that maybe this is one to take some music along to, or to run with other people if you need that energy to make you run faster. It was quite a long walk from finishing the race to actually getting your medal. So I actually looked back through my photos and I can't find a photo of me with my medal. So can't remember what the medal looks like. But the goodie bags were really great and the volunteers were very friendly at the end. I just wish that it wasn't quite so long to get from the finish out to meet up with your family and friends. In terms of race start, they are quite strict on you being in the right race pen, which I actually appreciate, especially if you're going for a good time, you want to make sure that you're lined up with people at the same pace as you. I've no idea what time I said I was going to run, but given that it was quite soon after Chicago, I ran slower than I would have normally done, but didn't feel like I was ever running alone. It was quite male heavy. I'd be interested to see the stats, but I felt like I was being jostled around by quite a lot of men along the way. So I don't know whether I started too far forward and therefore I was being overtaken, but yeah, that was just kind of how it felt. The city itself, we ate very well there, really enjoyed being in Valencia itself. So maybe I'll have to go back and run the marathon one day. So overall, I am giving Valencia a C, just because we can't all be A's and B's. And I think there were bits that would have improved it for me, like more on-course support, less time between them saying there's going to be water and there actually being water. And I think this is really the feedback for a lot of the races, is we just need more portaloos, because we're women, we need to go to the loo, and pre-race everyone's using the loos, and we just need more of them because that is a stressful pre-race moment. So into the new year, and we are on to Lisbon Half Marathon. Now, I think they have listened to feedback and improved so much in terms of the start and finish line. Getting to the start was really smooth. We were given specific trains that we needed to get on at specific times to get to our start corrals. Got on the first train that came into the station, absolutely no problem. Loved walking from the train station kind of down this hill, and you just see the iconic bridge. And yeah, it's the best start out of all of the races that I've run, really, ever. It's sort of like the Verrazano Bridge in terms of that like iconic race start. You go up and down. It's beautiful. It feels fast. Lisbon was much faster than I was expecting. But the downside to that really fast course, in fact, they broke the world half marathon record that day, is that the race course is, I felt, a little bit boring. There's like basically two big out and backs just along the same straight. You end up running sort of next to a railway line for quite a bit, which makes it really hard to have spectators there. It does mean, though, that you can see other friends running because you've got these two out and back courses. In fact, there's like three sort of out and back bits. So I did see my friends that were running faster than me on the other side of the course. So that's a bonus. But I just thought that Lisbon is such a beautiful, historic, iconic city that maybe we'd see a little bit more of that on the race course, which we didn't. The finish line was great. They've improved things. I've heard before that they literally had like queues to cross the finish line. I had no issues with that this year. Didn't love the medal. It like spun around. I can see what they're doing, but it just felt a little bit cheap in comparison to, say, like the Cardiff medal. They had free ice cream at the finish line. Definitely take that as a win. There was plenty of water on course. I had no issues with the aid stations there. And overall, good organisation. Just found the race course a little bit uninspiring. Overall, we're giving Lisbon a C. It was beautiful, but I think if the weather hadn't been so good, I would have enjoyed it slightly less. So it was absolutely stunning running across the bridge and the first, like, I would say like 5 miles. And then it just became a little bit boring, which is why we are giving this race course a C. They also need more loos at the start line. There's a 10K and there's a half marathon, and they had separate loos for each, which I understand why they're doing that, but it meant that the queues were really, really long for the half marathon, and there was just nobody in the corrals yet for the 10K. So I felt like that maybe could have opened that up for the half marathon runners who were setting off quite a long time before the 10K. Last up, we have Prague, and I'm not sure whether this is recency bias, but I loved it. Spoiler alert, this is getting a superior stamp. The weather was beautiful. The course was stunning. You do run over some cobbles, so it's maybe not one if you're going for a really fast time, but the crowds were out. The city is so historical. You run over the river. It was one of the most beautiful courses I've ever run through. The start area was fairly simple. There were loos. We went into actually quite nice portaloos that had not a huge queue. I even went twice before the race. I managed to forget my gels, so I had a bag of Haribo with me, but that's on me, not anyone else. And yeah, I just loved it. I would really, really highly recommend Prague as a city destination to go and do the half marathon when you're there. I also collected my SuperHalf medal there, which is the biggest medal I have ever seen. And they were really friendly about it. It was really well organised. They were very strict about leaving where we left finish line when we were trying to get back to see friends finishing. They were very, very strict about that. So definitely something to keep in mind. They were quite aggressively like, you're absolutely not going this way. But overall, really, really enjoyed that one and didn't have to climb a barrier, managed to just get there with plenty of time. It was easy to get to the start. Yeah, highly recommend Prague Half. So there we have it. 6 SuperHalfs. Prague was my favourite, then Copenhagen Copenhagen. Then we've got Cardiff and Berlin. And then trailing behind, we have Valencia and Lisbon. Let me know what your thoughts are on the SuperHalf series. Are they on your bucket list? Which ones would you like to run? Have you run any of them yet? I'm also going to be doing a ranking of all of the majors. Stay tuned, subscribe to watch the ranking of the World Marathon majors.